When AI grows up. So 2002 has been the year of the text-to-image. I think we've seen incredible work done by colleagues and friends today. AI is on everybody's mouth, and I think it's been some kind of wildfire technology that has a foreseeable impact on the current creative economy. And these are some experiments with AI, which I will talk to you about soon. And among all this image generator, I think these are all done with Midjourney. And I think I want to talk about aesthetics a bit, because I think Midjourney differentiates from others because of the reliability in terms of being pretty by default, and its capability to produce this overall fine art aura that made it a democratizing tool for aesthetic in a variety of style. And I think this tool is associated with reliably aesthetic images, often delightful and whimsical. And I think truly the tool is designed to unlock the creativity of ordinary people by giving them the tools to make beautiful pictures just by describing them. These are the words of David Holt, Midjourney founder. This was my first project with Midjourney. By the way, I will not show you things. I'll show you very personal things today, not research project. These are really absolutely personal experiments and project midway. Because I thought maybe there is something to be said about these tools being personal and democratizing tools. And these were a series of experimentation with the first generation of Midjourney when it was still beta version and it was still not very well trained. And I thought I actually produced more interesting things because it did not exactly know what to do and it was not trained yet. It was really at the beginning of the beta version. And this AI technology can be a valuable tool, I think, clearly for content creators looking to enhance their creativity. And I'll talk a bit about creativity. I think there was a great question before, where creativity comes from, and improve the quality of their work. AI content creators can take advantage of all of this. And I'll talk also about biases that AI has. So this is the little image that I did with Midjourney that then became an NFT and then became a real piece. So design, as we know it, will no longer belong to a relatively small group of well-trained individuals, which I think is what we are here. Actually, visualizing one's imagination will be a fully democratized practice, taking place in online communities where we are co-working and co-imagining. And these new human aesthetic open source visions will spill into the real world. And it's not a so distant future when visualizing one's imagination will be open source, real time, three-dimensional, interactive, and physical. So what was once upon a time a very clear dichotomy between the intuitive mind and the rational mind. By intuitive mind, I mean the aesthetic, agency, authorship, inspiration, creativity, whereas the rational mind was maybe analytic, optimization, prediction. I think in the post-human design environment, we surpass this dichotomy, and I think somehow issues of creativity have to be really looked through a completely different lens than the one of the 18th century genius, personal ability, etc. And also the difference between the esprit de géométrie or the esprit de finesse of Pascal. I mean, this is a long dichotomy that I think has been part of philosophy or our way to see ourselves, or even to define our own value in the world as human in relationship to all the other beings. I think today, with the hegemony of this digital media identity as also to be refined, AI poses a big question and a big anxiety of how we define ourselves from others, or how we define our role in society as creatives. And this is not just about jobs, I think, which is a bit about jobs, I think, at least, but yet I think it's about our role and how we see ourselves in this new economy in which AI has questioned our capacity to create and to be the top at logics and things that we thought belonged to being humans and now belong to being machine produced. I would say, actually, looking at what I've seen, that we're not great generators as humans, but we're great discriminators. We know what we like immediately. So if there is a role we still have, I think, is not the one of creativity, it's the one of discrimination among the things that are created. This small project was a first test when I started using Midjourney, and I kept on doing the same thing for a year. So I show this to you as a small assignment, where it's called Pick Me. And this grapples with the issues of identity today in the time of an emerging AI. So these images could be loosely associated with a series of self-portrait, but instead of using a selfie or a phone, I was actually using Midjourney. I wanted to see what would come out and how the same exact input would change accordingly to the different versions of Midjourney through one entire year, which was, I think, the big year of Midjourney. 2002, 2003 is when I did this. So these are not produced with a cell phone camera, it's produced with Midjourney. There is a single text input, and it's a temporal progression of faces. And scrolling through the faces, the viewers notice that the age of the women oscillates from childhood to womanhood, and the initial manga cuteness transforms into disenchantment very quickly. Because it was a very specific word which I wanted to test into the prompt, which was cuteness. And I think Sian Guy does a very good job in her book on our aesthetic categories, the zany, the cute, and the interesting, and she defines cuteness as a way of aestheticizing the powerlessness. It hinges on a sentimental attitude towards the diminutive and or weak, which is why a cute object, formally simple or non-complex, and deeply associated with the infantile and the feminine and the unthreatening, get even cuter when perceived as injured or disabled. So there is a sadistic side to this tender emotion. And so these AI-generated images had one word in the text which was cute. And within the time in which I started and ended, this was the first image, that was the last image. Clearly something has happened through the collaboration between me and everybody else on Midjourney. And so this piece is really a display of the ways AI tools are subtly proliferating, dominating cultures within powerfully beautiful images. They're all beautiful images, they're attractive, and yet they do have a cultural social capital in them. Not very different from the work of Tomoto Sawada, I think she does. She takes pictures of herself every day, different tools, but somehow it's, again, a commentary about identity and truly fast forward this in time of the internet, social media, face filters, mask, gaming, and avatars. We understand this is a big deal today, how we see ourselves and how we proliferate images. You know, Sherman, a long-standing artist that puts herself into the picture and really subverts this visual shorthand we use to classify the world around us through the idea of herself. So this was just a simple project that questions stereotypes, conventions, while exploring attributes such as aesthetic, self-image, and gender. And so essentially, AI is holding a mirror to our society, explains Prisma Labs about the existence of biases in Stable Diffusion. And while it's impossible to fully eliminate biases from the human-made tools, which is really, again, AI is human-made, it is important to question if AI-generated images might end up reinforcing dominant culture while they simultaneously produce speculative visualization, which is why I asked the question about Morgan, why. Ultimately, really, the work wants to make a case for cultural sensitivity and wide representation. I told you it was personal, this one. And I think the biggest triumph of the digital age is truly the transfer of our identity on the digital space. And this is not merely a mental transition. Our bodies, our voices, our text messages, our geographical location, our feelings, our connection, our public space lives online. And we live into this interconnected, shared data that define who we are. Our phones know more about our personal life and secrets than ourselves sometimes. Therefore, I think our sense of self is split between who we are in real life and how we represent ourselves online. These avatars, these face filters, this deep fake are just the beginning of the manifestation of a larger global transition of our sense of self into the cloud. This was a small exhibition I've done in Los Angeles. I brought it here because part of it was an AR experience coming from artificial intelligence. I made 1,000 women faces. It was really an exercise about portraits. These are all cadavers, by the way. These are all dead women on a plate displayed as food. Nobody knows it, but Midjourney does because they blocked me so many times while I was doing the project because there is now a way to block it. And so all the time I would input this data. So there is, they were not happy about what I was writing, but in reality, so the experience was to start taking all this AI images into the reality. And it's not just the reality of the women printed on the mirror and being displayed between consumption of female culture and food, but also how then they become part of the space through augmented reality. So we did an app. First of all, we brought the bidimensionality to three-dimensionality, which was its own task. Because it still is on task, so I'm looking at NVIDIA to make this faster for us, but it's not fast yet, so there is a lot of work to go from 2D to 3D. And then we started creating phone apps so people could interact and bring these women back home. And we did QR codes for all these 1,000 women, and everybody who came to the exhibition brought one back. And I think somehow, clearly these are artwork, they're commentary on technology, gender, and where we're at with things, and also personal expression. I told you today it was personal. Adil is already worried about this lecture I'm giving. I will also show stuff from the past. I think this also wants to say that there's designers, which I really think you do. I mean, you did not talk about aesthetic in design, but I think the work you do is amazing because design is just incredible. So beside the craft. So as designers, I think we are now asked to do something that is between physicality and also the imagination. So the AR, AI, all these things that happen in our phone, in reality, I think are becoming not just an issue of technology, truly. It's an issue of culture and engaging with the fact that we are all using our cell phones for everything. Our first encounter with anything is online. And so the idea that I think the average American is in front of the screen for 7 hours and 5 minutes, and I think all of you sympathize with the fact that if it's not 14, we've not worked enough. I mean, we're all in a different realm. And if it's not if it's not the screen of your computer, it's the screen of your cell phone. I think we mediate our views through a screen for a long time, and I think that has become a place of the public imagination, has become a place of our public identity, has become our main interaction, and has become also the place of desire for our designs. We are looking at the screen and the light from the screen. We make these images, we produce these images, and then we want to build them. And I think that's not a small issue, how to bring these kind of qualities into the space. And so a lot of the work lately has been truly trying to capture this idea of physicality and also this digital footprint, which I think is hidden behind, is a cultural aspect, the most hidden behind what we're doing today with AI, I think. This is a project done for Lane Crawford. It's 8 stores in China, 4 in Hong Kong and 4 in mainland China. You know, this is where it comes from, but let's say that's not. Our representation of nature. Sorry, it's my fault. So this is the digital component of this, and a lot of the issue was on how do I bring this into the reality of a fairly static space, which is the one of the shopping windows. And so we started creating this wallpaper, and the wallpaper had patterns, and the patterns started triggering AR experiences. So that was the trick to somehow bring the still life, the natura morta, to life into everybody's cell phones. So these are all the different shopping windows. We had many. It was a big job for us. And I'll show you a bit the application so you can see how then you can point the app from the cell phone to the pattern. Then the AR experience starts. You can start seeing insects and flowers and sounds moving around the clothing. It is a for a clothing company, by the way, yes. It's a luxury brand. I didn't mention. And so the idea that there is always a physical footprint in every job we do, but then there is also this digital footprint, and which is the most important encounter in reality beyond the moment in which you will see the project. I'm just showing some stuff that I'm doing right now is really under construction while I'm here, with all the issues about that. So this is a project I'm doing for in San Diego with Gensler, and I'm doing some of the interior facades and graphics. And again, so there is a static, there is this, let's say, design, which comes first, and then how then you bring this into a project. So it's a series of panels that are printed, and then part of the interiors, we use vinyl to occupy it. And also there is a component of animations when you scan the QR codes and you start seeing what is behind each of these projects. So it's a bit of a creepy carousel of trees. A few more. And and these are other examples of ways in which our social media devices, our phones bring another layer of interactivity. I'm also working with Anju University to do interactive rings, smart rings. Really what I do is a form, they do the software, to be honest. But so in the software, there is all this AI behavior that are integrated. We are doing for him and for her, and it's called Not a Formality. And so we're having fun doing this stuff. So AI also can be integrated to small apparel, interactive apparel. A project for the East Family Library for children. The beautiful star students. So again, this is for a children's library. We're making carpets that occupies all the playing area for the children, and there is this AR application that goes with it, somehow scavenger hunt. So illusion and reality, I think it's a state of being right now, nowadays. This is for elderly people. Like, if you know this movie, you're my age.
This is your last chance.
I think we need more sound for this.
After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
But the choice between the blue and the red pill is not really a choice between illusion and reality. Of course, Matrix is a machine for fictions, but these are fictions which already structure our reality. If you take away from our reality the symbolic fictions that regulate it, you lose reality itself. I want a third pill.
Clearly, this is Zizek. I just wanted to use his take on illusions and reality, because I think somehow it's part of where we're at today. And I think AI, AR, all the things we do through our cell phones has become a second nature, and frankly cannot go back to not being there. A few last words about still nature, which I think is maybe something where AI should be more interested in. So in the current state of affairs, I think as environmental issues take center stage in the public discourse and AI is expanding in its application, I think the representation of nature has undergone a profound evolution, and I think still nature has never been this interesting. And I think contemporary portrayals of nature delve into this intricate web of interactions, dependencies, and impacts that define our relationship with the environment at a planetary scale. We are entering an era in which our pressing challenges exceed the narrow concerns of human beings. And this issue demands a departure from conventional human-centric views of the world and its governance towards approaches and structures that transcend planetary boundaries in scale and significance. I think AI tools offer us a capacity to envision novel species and prospective futures. There is sound, but you cannot hear. I think these AI tools harness this power to somehow transcend the constraint of the present moment, and they foster a sense of wonder and curiosity. And I think somehow they expand our collective dream and our understanding of the world by generating visually realistic depictions of hypothetical worlds, creatures, and phenomena. I think AI tools allow artists, or in general everybody really, to explore alternative realities and project futures that diverge from our own. And so I think that there is a collective intelligence, there is a collective imagination Also, they prompt a contemplation on the evolving relationship between humans and other forms of life. And I think create new breeds that invites reflection on the potential of collaborative efforts to shape the course of life on Earth, transcending the limitations of singular perspectives. I think AI raises the question of multi-species representation. And spark an unorthodox way of seeing things. And so they somehow ask what life will be. I have much more, but I think I would stop it here for questions. Or should I go longer? I have more, but fine, okay. All right, thank you. Any questions?
I'm really bad at sharing, so therefore.
Okay.
I'm gonna take this first question, and I'm sure there's more coming after. I want to challenge you with your first statement on AI. So humans are about discrimination because we are not only about generation. Like generation, we don't have to care. I think this is more or less what you were saying, that we are more becoming curators to this new upcoming way of creating. So I challenge this.
I guess what I was trying to say is that we might not be the fastest creator, but we're really fast at discrimination. Which doesn't mean that we're just editing, but I think that's something we truly do fast. I mean, even if you think about Midjourney, your role in this is training the AI. This bigger, this one, mix this with that one, I prefer this one. And everybody trained it, paying, by the way, $40 a month, the system, because we are the discriminator. So our role is not, there is a machine generating stuff, and we're discriminating whether or not is what we wanted out of it. Isn't that what happened? Because I feel like that's what happened.
But it's not the only way that you can use
Yeah.
That's why it's too reductive to say that we are just faster at creating.
I think it's innate if they cook for you, that you tell me, I like it, I don't like it. I mean, we taste something, you know immediately if you like it. Visually, we know immediately. And I think on the other hand, the creation process is a much slower one. I just think that computer became pretty fast. I'm not saying that's the only thing we're good at, but there is the AI produced fast. I mean, I cannot. This is why everybody has an anxiety with AI. Not here, because here we are a very selected group of people that is a positivistic idea about AI, which I share. But I go to panels and there is an anxiety about AI because AI takes away your identity in society. This is a little bit what I was trying to say. So you have to reinvent yourself because what you thought were the characteristic of being human, your cell phone in your pocket is faster at generating images, generating text, logics, sounds. It's becoming the things that we did as designers are now something that we control as a workflow. And we discriminate and edit and initiate, but I think we cannot. This is a collaboration, and our role is not the one of generation, I think.
Only, maybe.
Only, yes.
I think I was looking for your one of the statements that you had, which was that they were showing where not to go sometimes. And this was on the very first project when you were saying where I was investigating with this beta version, and I realized that I knew what I don't want. So I have the feeling that now these extremely powerful, fast generative algorithms that are trained to every image, more images that we can ever see, they can point towards directions, And even they can show you where not to go, because you will actually, by just seeing kind of this panorama of everything that can happen based on what they've seen, we can choose to do otherwise. And I think that's what I was looking for,
I think,
connect this idea.
and I don't know, I'm not an expert, I'm a user. I'm like your grandma using it, I feel like I use it, and I like the fact that I'm using a democratizing tool in a democratic way, because I'm a technical person quite a bit, but there are certain things that I think are worth fighting and some not. But anyway, and it's okay. People here are investing time in the development of certain things, which I think there is a major rush towards what AI can do and which companies will make it and dominate certain market. I mean, and I come from the United States, and it's like every other company does this right now. And eventually certain companies will win the market. There is a strong race, and certain things will go back. So, and I think universities like this one have actually probably certain tools to develop your own system. Certain other universities that are not research universities do not. There is a certain level of positivistic. I think certain companies will simply jump on top of everything that the university will do. That being said, that's my point of view coming from the United States, where I think the kind of investment that right now is going on is very strong and high. That doesn't mean that there are certain very specific niche where one could develop certain tools within that framework and control it more, and that should be the case. But I'm also realistic about what it takes to do that. Just that. They are extremely NVIDIA will tell us, they're extremely expensive in R&D. No, you know what I mean? So certain universities, can support that kind of race up to a point. I don't know, even in our university, we had people doing AI, and there was a moment where that simply they surpassed everybody else. And that's, that will continue to happen for a while, I think, until there is domination, until there is a way in which people can monetize out of this. It's much more clear what the intellectual property will be and how this data can actually be used or not. It's a bit of a Wild West still. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I think you have faith in certain aspect of control, and I understand. It's not I believe more that these kind of tools are actually belonging to the crowd needs and economy, and not a single person research. But that's, I don't know. I'm not answering the question? I did, okay. Not to say it's a waste of time. I think, but I believe that the forces at play are strong. And I'm not a player in the race. I'm just staying away from it. And this is like, a big revolution in terms of the economy, of the workflow economy, yes. And the stock market and what happens to it, and it's just something to, ETH though is a force of nature. If there is a place where certain things can happen, it's this place. How about that? And MIT probably. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question, because I think that's an important point. And I would tend to agree with you that we are curators and we're not data generating, but there's an aspect though that I don't think we always go in the right direction, and meaning that when I work with my students, I tease them that they always upscale the wrong image, right? Because I think that there are better directions where to take the process that you talked about, like the collaboration with the tool to get to a final image. So I'm wondering if you have, what's your take on the influential cultural components that help us create an aesthetic sense or visual literacy?
The older I get, the least dogmatic I get. As a teacher especially, and I support, I'm in a role where I support people to do their work, so I don't feel like I need to project my own onto students, nor faculties, nor researcher. I'm much more a platform for things to happen, and I'm a promoter of many. I would say promoting the conversation is more important than deciding which one of the 4 images to scale up. And promoting a place where certain conversation about aesthetics can happen, I think is important, so that actually we can discriminate and having a conversation about that. But I live in Los Angeles. There are a lot of miss and some hits, and I appreciate the experimental capacity of students and faculty to take risks, and I learn my lessons, and I have my own practice. What you see is my really personal practice, and I could go on buildings and stuff, but I didn't show on purpose any of the students' work or faculty work. There is no, I think academic work should, I truly believe in freedom of speech and creativity, and my role is more promoting as a platform of conversation.
Okay, maybe I have a question as well before I give it to you. I was actually incredibly surprised at the last, or the first project that you showed with the cadavers.
Okay.
And I'm really trying to chart a path through which we get to this kind of super dark, kind of representation of these things. And then, of course, when I look back, then you have still life, you have the, what do you call it, the tableau vivant and these kind of things. So there's always this kind of interplay between what is dead, what is alive, what is a reflection, what is yourself, and this and that. I'm just wondering if these are oppositions for you, or are they always part and parcel of any kind of existence?
I think this kind of work was part of the idea that we live in a moment where identity, personal identity, is challenged. And we live in a place where there is a role play between who we are and what we project in of ourselves out there. I mean, from the Zoom mask filters to the icon you select for every single social media, the kind of images you put out there, the filters you use. I mean, there is an aestheticization of the self that I think it's become quite predominant. I mean, the deep fakes and all this, I think it's quite a cultural spread phenomenon. And all this AI truly move very fast towards what is used by everybody. And we all are participating in this new role play avatar / existence in the digital space. And I think as architects somehow we always consider the public space being the public space of architecture. You have your tower, I have my buildings, I have and then yet there is a public space which is truly the one we participate in, which is the digital footprint of everything we do. And now we broadcast everything we do, even as professionals, and this is Play Models has an Instagram account. So I just think this is a public space that somehow is being designed. And usually it's been designed by insecurity, vanity, desire to aestheticize ourselves or project a certain image. So I think there are certain macro trends that I don't think are just there for a second. I think these are just our anxieties of who we are in society are out there, and as architects and designers, that space exists more and more as a cultural space, interactive space, public space, and so that's that.
Are we doomed to drown like Narcissus in the face of our reflections? Because I'm specifically interested in the mood of the cadavers. Okay, maybe we could
No, I don't know. It was a critique clearly of the, of beauty, of gender, like what is that it means to be consumed aesthetically. But yeah, that was, was, again, I told you, this is a very personal lecture. I'm showing very personal work that, that. Yes.
Yeah, also a question about maybe this darkness. So earlier you were talking about the intuitive mind and the rational mind, and then you were claiming that in a post-human design environment we have surpassed this dichotomy.
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask you, what is this post-human design environment, and or are we in a post-human era, or what is this? It has something dark to it as well.
Yes, I think we're in a post-human design when we work with AI, yes. It is a human-made tool, but I think we're collaborating with the database, and I think, yes, we're in a post-human design environment. That's what I would define, what has happened in the past few years. And I just simply think that somehow as a creative, we're always consider our creativity, I think, has been considered somehow a super, a talent, a thing you have and is innate, and all you have is something that distinguishes you from anybody else, is this idea of the genius. It's a very specific idea. It has something creative is something new, something that has not been seen before, something nobody else can reproduce. There is a sense of uniqueness in creativity. And also there is a sense of this being a godlike quality that only few people have. And I think we're still a bit stuck in that kind of ideas of the genius. And when we talk usually about this creativity, we talk about the intuitive mind, the thing that comes to you because you have this inspiration, no? That you have this specific quality. I can't think that that has never been true, by the way, but it's truly nowadays a past characterization of the creative person. Usually intuitive minds was against the rational mind, so the rational mind is the analytic mind, the optimization, the prediction, all the kind of things that maybe the engineer would do. The architect would be the intuitive mind, the creative mind, etc., the designer. Or if you go beyond architecture, there are many fields in which the genius is the person that is superhuman, etc. I just think these two distinctions are, and the fact that only the humans are creative, no? That's like, oh, this is what sets us apart from everybody else. We're creative. There is something special about us. In reality, that might not be the case. That actually creativity is, you don't create in void. It's actually a collaboration. Has been always a collaboration. It's part of a cultural humus that is around you. A university are clearly a great place where certain things come to play. And nowadays, when you are in front of a machine that is trained with all the data out there, I think that is even less true. You are truly, the myth of creativity has been a single act of a single person that has something to give to society because they're better than others. I think it's completely past. I think creativity is, the genius is in everybody, it's in the crowd, and the crowd and all these learning models are the one, and the data model are really the one that produce certain kind of interaction and produce the thing that we call first to be intuitive. I think and anybody who worked on the computer understands, I think, and you didn't need the AI to understand that the creativity comes from hard work every day in front of the computer, or whatever you do, whatever your art is, there is a lot of grind between you and that creation, and that is the most analytic and work ethic driven effort to create something that might be different from what there is out there. So it's kind of a direct, yeah. Anyway, so that's all I want to say. I think we're in a post-human design environment because we use tools that interface us with a data set that is still human, but we interact with that.
We have more questions? No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Sorry, just a quick one, please.
Yeah.
Which do you think is the role of the augmented and mixed reality technologies in the field of architecture and design? I mean, not just for visualizing the things, but do you think there is any other role?
Yes. I think it's gonna, I think it's still a rough technology, so it's still not that good. And it's still heavy glasses and cell phones. Yeah, there is a role. There is a role. I think it just will start overlaying a series of things and information and visuals and a depth of data onto things that we will see more and more. So, I mean, if I have to imagine, I think it's already kind of there, but I think the technology is still a bit raw, and so it's not visually that beautiful, and it takes quite a lot to load on the cell phone. So there is, I think it's the infancy of this, but I do think that it starts creating a layer of imagination and informations and data on top of reality, which I think there is a space for, at least. I mean, I'm not sure this is going to be our life in the future, but, what are you going to, yeah, I do think that it will become easier to have, and I think it will be part of our daily life. But again, I don't have a crystal ball, but.
Do you see using it in your real or your daily profession?
I use it not for myself, generally speaking, but I use it for clients a lot, yes. Because again, I think everybody understands that there is one geographical location, but in reality, there is a footprint which is a digital footprint that happens only when certain level of activity, interactivity happens around a place. I mean, clearly, some of the projects I showed are commercial, and there is a desire to move beyond the person that comes to the space. And I think this AR or phone apps start engaging user towards image trafficking and spreading, I think, the public interaction towards another audience. I mean, at some point, I think James Turrell had a show at the Guggenheim. And James Turrell, the light artist, he said, my work cannot be experienced unless you are in the space. And so he prohibited everybody to take pictures at his Guggenheim show. And so there were signs everywhere, don't take picture, because he thought it's not a non-vicarious experience, which, it's fair to say for an artist to say that. And yet, I think the Guggenheim, everybody took out the cell phones anyway, and they couldn't police it, and there were images everywhere. And it was like the most important footprint of the Guggenheim, after which they actually decided to take away this non-picture sign, because they realized that it is true that you don't control the image of the space, you do not control the story, but that maybe is a good thing. So there is a participatory force when you allow people to have their say or take their picture or share their ideas about an artistic piece. Clearly, it's dangerous, Of course, a museum or an artist or an architect would always want to control the experience of the piece and put a caption and tell you how the visual culture should be read, should be understood. So there is an educational component behind it, not to mention the dogma and controlling version of this. But let's say, and the first moment you allow people to upload and not just download, this is a two-way stream information. That means that the reality that you create is part of it as well, and you're part of that. So Wikipedia, when you go to the page, you read Wikipedia, you go to the page behind it, and you realize that this has been edited until a second ago. And so you understand that even the encyclopedia knowledge is not really the truth. The truth is what we create and we agree upon that is the truth. So I think all this comparticipation in social media has a capacity, I think, to allow everybody to have agency. And I don't think we're going to go back to say that only certain institutions have the agency to say what the truth is, what art is, what you should buy or not. I think we're in a society where the totalitarian idea of certain institutions owning knowledge is ended. And so all these tools that layer information on top of reality, I think, allow for this participation, and I think it will keep on working like this. And with all the difficulties of the deep fake and elections, I don't know, the data manipulation, metaverse, you name it. But that just tells you how big that force is. Okay, we got into
Okay.
global politics. Okay, after this.
Thank
Yeah,
you
so
very much.
there is another question from your friend.
I would have another question, but
No, we might as well.
We just need drinks now. No.
sorry, it just took a while to come up with a question, but I really enjoyed your talk. Like what I remember from our little experiments with Midjourney, that there are these kind of funny parameters like dash dash raw dash dash stylize and these kind of things.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how you described how the first of these portraits that you showed at the very beginning and the last one with probably the model going under fine-tuning, who knows what, and they change in terms of their attitude, in terms of their two-dimensionality, whatever. They get different. And it's interesting how there's this machine at work and this training, unsupervised, supervised, nobody knows exactly what's going on. But there is something like a prettiness factor or something like this that seems to factor in. And if, I guess in the 20th century, if we go to a museum and think of art, we wouldn't, if something is super pretty or not, it would not be the first thing that one would be conditioned to at least discuss, right? It would be about the context, I don't know, the context in which this kind of artwork is situated, the kind of cultural sensibilities it taps into, these kind of things. If something is pretty or beautiful, or how to beautify, one wouldn't, it's not a category in which one would think of art that much. And now with these Midjourney things, there is this kind of suddenly this very unarticulated way of tweaking the stylized parameter, make it more stylized, make it prettier. And so I'm wondering if as we as people who deal with these kind of nets, and we will probably deal with them more and more, if we need to find a new vocabulary towards referring to these aesthetic things, and also acknowledging that maybe a new relationship towards the idea of kitsch, and also how to articulate in this kind of new realm that suddenly seems to open up between,
I think, I'm going to say this, that beauty has been part of the arts for a long, long time. Before Midjourney, I think has been the depiction of beauty, whether or not the standard of beauty has changed, which they have been there for a long time. Maybe my Italian, I don't know. So you go to any place and there is a painting of anything, and the aesthetic moment is the desire for an aesthetic moment. I think is part of the artistic engagement. I mean, I think this, the idea of the beauty and sublime, etc. So I think it's part of the aspirational component. Not everybody, but I think there is always a position towards aesthetic. I'm not sure if artists don't have one, if they have against it or have a different style. But definitely what I think Midjourney does, I mean, he has been trained on, and not that I know exactly, but on a lot of artists, and so the best, you can tell in this style of this such and such, and you will get phenomenal results today. And this is why a lot of artists whose work has been used to train these models are on a war path. And have you ever seen the Netflix documentary? Oh God. When the streaming service for music, Spotify. So have you seen Spotify? The Force. Okay, I recommend it. When people think about AI today, I recommend to watch that documentary because it explains, I think, a little bit where we're at now. Spotify is basically a moment where music goes from old record industry that had physical things and sold the physical item to digital format and then gets distributed and downloaded. And how that came to be and how artists got ripped off for a certain amount of time because it was a pirate issue. They just copied them and they put them online, people downloaded them until this became fast enough. And then until these people lost their business, meaning all these big companies thought, okay, now what do we sell? They, at that point, start negotiating with the new technology and giving rights to the artists. So this, I still think, is where we're at. So there was a moment before, there is AI, where they have this tool that has been clearly trained on artistic, human, and you can name these people, and they are used, but they don't get any of your $40 a month. So, if I type in, do a job, etc., right, I can name the artist, and nothing goes to the artist in terms of that $40 a month I give. That is the big issue here, I think, that we're having. There will be a point, I think, where all of this will be sorted. We're not there yet, and I don't want to get into that because I think these are the logistics of a giant, that's why people have been striking in Hollywood, because their voices, their faces, and their work is used to do things. Apart from us, Midjourney, and the dead artist that maybe from 500 years ago that I used to make this image. But when you start actually doing things that are using commercially viable, alive artists, I mean, there is a big issue there. And I think that kind of sorting still needs to be done. It will somehow find this resolution that you and I are not part of. And but at some point, I think that is the monetization of an art, either its beauty, its aesthetic, its painting, whatever it is that we're using through these models, I think that's a discussion to be had, and I think they're having it. And I will close saying that this AI did not have a legislative regulation. The intellectual property is not recognized because it's made by a machine, but the machine is trained on intellectual property. And so I think there is just a loophole in terms of what is allowed today. Eventually, something will need to happen when there are going to be mega products, and certain things will need to be solved. So I'm not sure answers your question, but I still think that aesthetic is part of most production. Like there is this area of that. The problem is the stylized component of aesthetic that comes from, or sound, or music, or other things. I mean, we talk about Midjourney, but in reality, there are so many of those. The writers, I mean, when they're very much alive, yes, what's up? That's it. Yeah, what?
Thank you.
Thank you.